If you wanted to retain information, have the information played back to you with Baroque music. I deal with a lot of energetics. By that I mean acknowledging that you're a vibration. Now they're getting a moment to themselves and they go, we get the limelight. And so when you have a collective vibe that says things are bad, you can't help, as positive as you are or think you are.
Hi guys, welcome back to Momina's Mixed Plate, Season 3, powered by Insignia Shoes. In the studio with me, I have one of the highest rated RJs in Pakistan, Khalid Malik. I mean, you have to be living under a rock if you haven't heard any of his shows, whether it was on 89 or 91 now. So I'm very excited to get to know him better. He has an entirely different side to him than what he has on the radio, which I'm very excited to explore. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can be part of the Momina's Mixed Plate family. And let's welcome on Khalid Malik.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for the introduction.
You're most welcome.
Yeah, if you're under a rock, please get out of the rock.
Yeah, get under the rock. Or get out of the rock.
Get out of the rock.
Nice. And and you've been, how many years has it been now?
So technically I started radio in 2004.
Almost closing in on 20.
Yeah, right.
18 years.
Yeah. So,
wow.
So that's when I technically started it. But technically starting, I actually went on air and said hi.
Said hi.
So, yeah.
And you're also, apart from music, what else do you enjoy?
Well, I like reading. Yeah. When I get the time, I love reading. In fact, growing up, my favorite store was a bookstore.
Yeah.
I used to love going into the bookstore and just smelling the books. And the thicker the book, the better it's got to be. And I was into adventure and fantasy. So,
Lord of the Rings, Game of
Thrones, oh my God.
Harry Potter.
So I bought it from the library. Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, from the library at school. And so, yeah. But at the time, I didn't quite understand it because I was still in primary school.
Yeah.
But, the thicker the book, the better it's got to be.
The better it's got to be.
That was
Ajay, you are very spiritual as well, and you're also a Reiki practitioner.
I am. So yeah, I think spirituality started when I was in high school. It was my endeavor sort of to do well in school that sort of took me towards mindset and brain practices and memory practices, and sort of one thing led to the next. And so there was this technique I came across when I was in high school. I think I must have been in 10th grade, and it was I can't remember the exact name, but essentially what it was if you wanted to retain information, have the information played back to you with Baroque music. So by that I meant
music.
Yeah, so Baroque. So like Vivaldi, a little bit of Bach, have that played back because the music from the Baroque period was at a particular beats per minute. So having that music played back and your notes played back increased retention. So that's what I used to do in high school. We had a dictaphone, and I dictate my notes into the dictaphone and have Vivaldi playing in the back, and I'd just sort of lie there, and I just end up falling asleep. I didn't remember anything, but that's
you didn't remember anything.
No, I don't think I ever did because my results didn't change. But one thing sort of led to the next.
So I was going to just cue in and say that anybody who wants to learn and
maybe I did something wrong, but it's a great technique. I wish I remember the name. We'll look it up.
Okay.
But yeah, then meditation was introduced to me, and so it sort of started. That's where it started.
I got introduced to meditation about 3 years ago. And
really?
I started 3.5 years ago, I want to say, in 2019, the summer of 2019. And I started building my practice from 3 minutes. And now I can sit for an hour.
So before that, you didn't?
Nothing.
Really?
Nothing at all. My journey into meditation and mindfulness and coming into your own self started, 3.5 years ago in 2019, actually.
Wow.
And then I think COVID propelled it. Yeah. COVID propelled it because I went into a 72-hour meditative silence, and now I do theta healing. So what kind of healing do you practice?
So I do a lot of, I deal with a lot of energetics. By that I mean acknowledging that you're a vibration.
Yeah.
And so that's where it has to start from. Yeah. And that you're a soul first. Yeah. That has come into this world, into this body, in this uniform. And so we tend to forget that we're a soul. And we tend to deal with the body a lot and talk about the body a lot and get into fitness and wanting to lose weight, but it's got to start before that. And so hypnotherapy, energetics, Reiki, So there's a whole lot of modalities that I use to sort of essentially work with where you are vibrationally, and then sort of get you up a little bit, sort of bit by bit by bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, this is the reason I wanted to have this conversation, because I'm
Yeah.
on this path myself, like of,
Yeah.
you know, elevating the vibrational energy and kind of become like, you know, from particle to wave.
Yeah.
So that's where like Dr. Joe Dispenza says, you know, from matter to energy,
Yeah.
particle to wave.
Absolutely.
So that kind of like, and I think that the
Yeah.
first time you actually feel energy coursing through your body, I think it was just like, I think it also scared me a little bit, because
Yes.
you're not used to it, right?
Really?
The very first time it happened, I was like, wait, what's this?
Yeah.
And I kind of came out of my meditation. And then like the next time I was like, okay, no, I'm going to sit through it. I'm going to let it. And like literally like tremors went through my body, and like,
Wow.
like actual
Profound.
tremor. Yeah, it was actually like, and then it started happening a lot more. Like anytime I would meditate, it was like my body would start shaking, like literally quite physically shaking. And I would feel the tremors inside, but I was like closed eyes, and like,
Wow, Momina.
and like my mom was one day sitting with me, and I was doing this in the car, like we were going to Islamabad, and so I would feel like the first tremors that started coming were in my stomach area, like, you know, in the solar plexus. So they started vibrating. So I could feel it. I didn't know it was physically visible. So I didn't even tell my mom. My mom was sitting in the car with me. So I said, okay, mama, I'm going to do like, so I did like a 60-minute, like an hour meditation.
This is a dispenser meditation, or
This was a dispenser, yeah. So I was doing it, and I came out of it, and my mom was like, oh, your body was like, your stomach was like vibrating. What was that? And I'm like, oh, you could see that? And she's like, yeah. And this was like, you know, like right at the very beginning of when it started. And now I think I'm at that place where it's just kind of coming into oneness, into.
Well, it's whatever stored, you know,
Trauma.
Emotional shocks. Then they're just releasing. Now they're getting a moment to themselves, and they go, you know, we get the limelight, you know, and we're allowed to express ourselves, and it's great that you're shaking, and it's how we release trauma. So it's fantastic.
Can you please take a moment to just explain, because I mean, you know, the kind of influence you come from, like, and you actually hold that kind of influence with people, is to kind of educate a little bit more on this path, because, you know, like, I think it's so, it changed my life.
Yeah.
It changed my connection with God. It changed my conversation also. And I think it, like, I don't know how to yet express it in, like, maybe in a way that maybe more people would kind of take to mindfulness and take to wholeness and take to that, to understanding and kind of coming into alignment, and like actual alignment of your mind, body, and soul. So would you take a moment to just explain like how important it is and how it was for you?
So I just want to start off by saying that, you know, the reason that we're going through so much right now, not only here in Pakistan but globally, is because there is a collective
Consciousness
vibe that goes, things are really bad, right? And so when you have a collective vibe that says things are bad, you can't help, as positive as you are or think you are, you can't help but get caught into that vibe. But the people that are doing conscious work, that are people that are doing inner work, they catch themselves saying, "Oh, wait, hold on! I'm being caught in this collective vibe. I need to just know that this is a narrative that is based on nothing really. It's based on fear." And so I am beyond fear because I am a soul. So having that sort of understanding, if you are going through anxiety and stress right now, it's completely okay, because it's everywhere. And so you're just getting caught up. But there is a way out. What is the way out? You know, we tend to put everything in piles, Momina. It's the you know, main mota pile, it is the main patla pile, it is the, you know,
You're constantly
the judgment
compartmentalizing
pile.
yourself, right? You're boxing
Every
yourself
single
up.
thing. Every single thing. And so if you're living your life in all of these piles, you're bound to get overwhelmed. In my view, there are only two piles: feeling good, not feeling good.
Yeah.
What you call alignment or out of alignment.
Yeah.
In my vortex or out of my vortex.
Yeah.
It's
So
the
I think
same,
you're
it's just using different words.
Abraham Hicks.
Yeah, absolutely. And so those are the two piles. You're either feeling good or you're not feeling good. And Allah has given us this emotional navigation system.
And also intelligence, and like, I mean,
Right.
your vagus nerve. I
Yeah.
recently like did a course on it
Yeah.
and understood like
That's
how
great.
your vagus nerve, which is situated right at the nape of your neck,
Yeah.
is basically the cornerstone of every emotion, because it's connected to your gut.
Yeah.
So when you have gut issues, it's actually because your vagus nerve is not regulated.
Correct.
And I very recently found out that we are not taught how to breathe properly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We
We
don't know
don't
how
know
to
how to
breathe.
breathe. We don't. We
When I
think we
learned
know.
how to breathe, like for the first time I actually took a real breath in, I went lightheaded.
Yeah.
Like I almost
Yeah.
fainted.
Well, the brain's going, where did this oxygen come from?
Yeah.
I don't know, you had this,
I
Momina?
only had this much.
Where did you have this? Where was this stored?
Yeah.
And so every time you're feeling not good, it's your emotional navigational system, like this much like a GPS that says, you're now out of alignment. So let's get back into alignment. But what happens is because we don't know how to get back into alignment, we tend to. It's like you're following a map, and you know that you got to get to point B, but you take a different route. Now the map is rerouting you, but you choose to ignore the reroute, and you continue on your path. It's the same thing. Your body is rerouting you, but you're choosing to ignore the route, and so you keep going down this route that says I'm angry, I'm enraged, I'm going to blame. Where what's really happening is it's trying to reroute you and say, listen, let's get back in alignment.
Yeah.
You can feel whatever you're feeling, but it's because there's something else that's sitting underneath that wants to blossom. But you got to deal with this first. Let's reroute, but we don't reroute.
Yeah,
We
because like it's like
continue down
almost like
that
a
path.
pattern, right? Like so you're
Yeah.
kind of manifesting like what feeding into the other. You have to kind of take a
Yeah.
break from that
You got
that
to.
emotion
Yeah.
and kind of like, and I think that's why namaz is there to ground you into that, right? Because like it's that like you're grounding yourself 5 times a day, and it kind of all just starts to make sense because every route that you decide to take, like regardless of which route you take,
Yeah.
the destination is the same.
And the destination, by the way, is presence.
Yeah, and destination, yeah,
yeah.
that is a very important thing because like we think that there's like a physical destination when the destination is where you are right now.
And you know what you were talking about earlier, you said, meditation. A lot of people think that meditation is seeing these lights and these images and these visions. That too, but really it's just about just making sure you're here where you are.
Yeah.
And you're not in these piles, but you're in alignment.
Khalid, there's a lot of when you go down this journey and like since you've been doing this for such a long time, there's a lot of this entire process of unlearning and then relearning and then unlearning and then relearning. What was that like for you? Because I think everybody has like as they say, it gets worse before it gets better.
Yeah, that's
so you have to
so
stick
watch out.
Yeah, it does because for
Yeah.
me it was like 4 months of crying and I didn't know why the hell I was crying.
Yeah.
Couldn't get out of my room and I wasn't depressed. I wasn't like upset about anything, but it was just I was just crying a lot.
Yeah.
But like, what was that like for you that time?
It was. I mean, the one word that would describe it is suffering, because it's the suffering, and there's no sort of other way of being nice about it. It's through my own suffering, and not just one suffering, but it's a series. And as you go through each suffering, you begin to realize that there's something bigger and something that's beyond just me. And it's that realization. And so even if you have that kind of realization, you'll still suffer. All that suffering really is it's our dramatic way of saying it's your Rabb calling you back.
Yeah.
It's the affirmation that we as souls sort of took with our Rabb before we came down to this world, and we affirm that yes, you are our Lord. And so every time we go through a tough time, it's a reminder where your Rabb is saying, listen, remember you said yes, that I am your Lord, so well, you better come back.
Yeah.
This is your call to come back. But what happens? We don't. We resort to alcohol. We resort to drugs, substances. We resort to a lot of men resort to pornography. Resort to sex addiction because we said no. I want to mask this suffering, and so rather than go through it and the other end of it, and instead of being curious, I wonder what's on the other side of this. We go down, we spiral downwards, and the Quran describes it as being under in the depths of the ocean, where you're surrounded by darkness, and it's wave upon wave and cloud upon cloud, and you can't see your own hand. And it's that kind of place that we go into.
Because you're spiraling out of control.
And
you're just kind of
in the depths of the ocean, there's no pressure, there's no oxygen, and you're suffocating. And so it's that reminder: listen, come back to the light that is real. By the way, it's not some metaphor. This is real light we're talking about. And so it's constant. And so if you're doing the inner work, be prepared.
Yeah, of course, you have to be prepared because
Yeah.
it's also like it's you have to kind of go through it to grow, right? Because
You have to.
at the other side of it, every time there's growth.
Well, the seed has got to break
Yeah.
for the plant to,
Yeah, it, like
to
I
grow.
mean, growth, change, all of these words, like success, even like to get. It's not meant to be. It's like ease is, I think, you ask for ease. That
Yeah.
part you ease through that path.
Yeah.
That you're not so out of alignment that you steer off course.
Yeah.
And you kind of stay. But the clarity of mind that you get once you cross over is on another level.
My mentor puts it this way with the analogy: you're on a ship and you're actually sailing through a storm, and so if you want to sort of speed up that sort of sail, drop the excess baggage, drop this, drop the stuff
Yeah.
that's sort of putting more weight on the ship, and so as you drop some of that baggage, your ship sails a little faster through the storm. You still have to go through the storm,
Yeah.
but you've got to survive that storm.
Yeah.
And so this is what we are. We just got to survive the storm. And so there's ways of doing it, and I always encourage people to make sure you seek help. Whether it's a form of therapy, or whether you've got a close group of friends, but seek help.
No, I think it's very important to seek
Yeah.
help. And I think there was this saying, and it was really interesting because it really resonated with me. And it went something along the lines of that you should work like more on yourself than you do at your job. So if you're working like 8 hours a day at work, you should be spending at least 9 to 10 hours on
We don't
yourself.
do that.
You know what I mean?
We don't do that, yeah.
Like you need to work on yourself because that is the relationship. Like, and I feel like the more you get to know yourself, the more you dive deeper into finding out who you really are and how. And once you start shedding everything away, that unhappiness, that angst, that anxiety just kind of, leaves you and you're light as a feather then.
Yeah.
And then, like, yes, and then your meteoric rise. Like, there's a reason why, like, some of the most successful people, in fact, all the most successful people in the world do believe in alignment, and they do believe in meditating, and they do believe in kind of working on themselves. Because the more you work on yourself, the faster you grow. So, like, whatever you're kind of putting your mind to, then you are more present in doing that.
Yep, correct.
And so, before we go, I wanted to talk a little bit about how your perception changed, because I think that's a very big part of, because हम एक नजरिया होता है जिसके थ्रू हमें सिखाया जाता है बचपन से कि जिंदगी ऐसी है, but जिंदगी is not this cookie cutter thing that society has made. In fact, it's such a personal journey that there are no boxes. And when you
so what would you like me to address?
The perception, like how your perception towards life and like your world view changed. And how your goals changed?
Well, so I mean, again, it's through suffering. That's the key. But regardless of how you're suffering, there needs to be a rope that you sort of hang on to. And so for me, it was my religion. In high school, in fact, in university, when I was into meditation and into mindful practices, I was very close to the deen also. It was something my brother and I, as teenagers, we were drawn. My family was not religious at all. But somehow my brother and I, we were very drawn to it. And so I started looking for meditation in Islam. So I remember, so we were living in Australia, and I called one of the imams of the bigger mosques, and I said, Imam Samam, is there meditation in Islam? And he goes, Astaghfirullah, and he hung up the phone on a 17-year-old. And I go, okay, well, I guess that's my door shut. But when I was at uni, I remember still, I was at the cafe, at the Union Cafe, which is a place where we all skip class, and there was a bulletin, and it said spirituality in Islam. And that was like alarm bells for me. I was like, wow. And so I attended this lecture. This was back in 1999, actually, 98.
Oh, wow.
And I attended the lecture, and it was about Sufism, and it was about Sufism and Islam being the same thing. And I really was drawn by it. And so for me, that was my sort of entry point to spirituality. And so I joined what's called a tariqa, which is essentially a school of thought within the practice. And so through a series of mentors and teachers and different modalities, through vibration, because what you say has a vibration. And so there's certain words that you recite that have a particular vibration, and you can feel that vibration run through your core. And so through some of these practices, you're able to sort of, head above water, so you can swim, and then you'll drown a little bit, you head above water. It's a constant thing.
Yeah.
But it's hanging on to that rope, knowing that there is a bigger power that has your back.
That has your back.
Yeah.
And whether you call it like, no, it's the same thing, because like whether you call it the creator, source, Allah,
Yeah.
what name you want to call it, it's still,
Correct.
And that's what like I think has been so, I think enlightening for me.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could continue on this conversation for I think hours and hours at end, but we do have to wrap up now. But before we go, you do have a men's mentorship program that you were mentioning.
So I call it the Awakening Man's Code.
Okay.
This is a mentorship program for guys, because there is a need.
It was needed 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
So what I see, little boys in big bodies that are unable to cope with big emotions like guilt and shame and anger, which is why we see what we see. Men just unable to control their anger and rage, because, as I said, I just see little boys in big bodies, and so it's kind of holding their hand and saying, "Listen, let's do this together."
Yeah.
I describe it to the guys as holding a laltan behind them and going on this dark path. But the only difference is there's light now, so we can at least see where we're going. It's still dark up ahead, but there is light.
There's light in our hand.
Yeah.
And I wish you all the best. This
Thank
is
you.
like, I mean, I'll continue this conversation, and maybe in like
Thank
another
you.
year, I'll
Thank
be in
you.
a different place than I
Yeah.
am today, and
No,
you'll be in a
thank
very
you.
different place, and we'll have
I'm
more enlightened
sure.
conversation.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate it.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
With everything that you're doing, and
Thank
especially
you.
with your radio show. I'll
Thank
keep
you.
tuning in every
Yeah,
morning.
oh, please do.
Yeah, I do. When I go to golf, I'm switching between the two shows.
Good.
And I hope you guys enjoyed the segment. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you can be part of the Momina's Mixed Plate family. And I'll see you next time. Take care.